Hi, Lou here with another in the Confusions of Game Design series. The fact that people often confuse brain fever, or what I call brain fever, with actual real creativity. There is, of course, a tendency to laud creativity today, but to misunderstand what it is. And that misunderstanding is tied up with notions of be yourself and whatever you want to do is best, and the notion that you don't have to aim at anything in particular. Whereas real creativity is about being productive. It's about solving problems. There's a book called A Whack on the Side of the Head, which is or perhaps the standard book on creativity. The author never considers brain fever. Everything is about using creativity to solve problems. It's a built-in assumption behind his entire discussion. In my experience, creativity must be aimed at something. If you're just waiting for ideas to float by, you'll do a lot of waiting and not much creating. Creativity in support of nothing in particular usually becomes mere brain fever, which I'll describe later. Creativity must be aimed at solving a problem. Now, in general, creativity flourishes under constraints. The worst thing you can do for creativity is to just say, make up whatever you want. That tends to cause what I'll call creativity paralysis, something like analysis paralysis, or it causes a lot of brain fever, ideas in a vacuum that tend to be nonsense. The market creates constraints, your publisher may create constraints, and you can create your own constraints. And up to a considerable point, the more constraints there are, the more likely that your creativity is going to help you solve problems in your game design. Now, games themselves are agreed upon sets of what amount to artificial constraints, and they're a good arena for creativity. But game design seems to lack a lot in creativity these days because of the nature of the market, especially in video games. The video games often seem like carbon copies of one another. In any case, creativity is only a small part of game design. It's the execution that takes most of your time and energy, not the creation. Now, what is brain fever? Brain fever is wild ideas that sound and usually are nonsensical and that don't solve problems. They're ideas in a vacuum. Virtually anybody can produce such dross, but why bother? It's a waste of time. Now, in a game for teens and 20-somethings, quote, getting creative, unquote, in Dungeons and Dragons, for example, often means, oh, we can do something amazing or unbelievable if we just happen to make a somewhat unlikely dice roll. Like roll a 20 or roll 100 on percentage dice. There's no recognition of the magnitude and constraint of probability. Some things are drastically unlikely. 1 in a million, 1 in 10 million. But players don't seem to get that. And so much nonsense ensues as a result. Even when you find a creator who takes no credit for what he or she has done, it's still done in an area of constraints. For example, Sami Khan, who composed many well-known lyrics and songs and won 4 Academy Awards, said in an interview that I heard on the radio one day, I take no credit for these songs, I just happened to be in the room when they were written down. It just happened, in other words. Mozart himself said, I write music like cow's piss, that is, effortlessly, without thinking about it. Like cows who urinate without apparently even noticing. But these are exceptions. Most adults have to work at being creative. It doesn't just happen for them. To get good ideas, set constraints for yourself and work at getting ideas. Lots of them. Thanks for listening.